The terminal was crowded, but quiet, the kind of silence that comes when people sense something important is happening. A tall man in uniform stood at gate 32, his hands tight around a folded flag. His name was Major Daniel Ross, and he wasn't flying for vacation. He was escorting the body of his best friend, Sergeant Kyle Monroe, a soldier who never made it home from overseas. The gate agent looked uneasy. "Sir, I'm sorry, but the airline's policy doesn't allow anyone outside of staff near the cargo area," she said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, that's not cargo. That's a U.S. soldier." She glanced around nervously. "I understand, sir, but—" "No," Daniel interrupted, his voice steady but sharp. "You don't understand. I promised his mother I'd bring him home myself. You're not stopping me." Other passengers were starting to listen. Some turned down their headphones. Some even stood up, but the agent stood her ground. "Rules are rules, Major. You can board the flight, but you can't escort the remains." Daniel took a slow breath, trying to control the anger boiling in his chest. "Then this flight isn't moving until I do." A supervisor hurried over, his tone clipped. "What's the problem here?" "The problem," Daniel said, staring straight into his eyes, "is that your airline thinks protocol is more important than honor." The supervisor sighed. "Sir, I respect your service, but this isn't a military transport. You'll have to let our staff handle it." The words hit like a slap. Daniel turned toward the window, watching the crew load luggage into the plane, laughing, rushing, treating everything like a schedule to keep, not a promise to fulfill. That's when an elderly woman nearby stood up. "Young man," she said loudly to the supervisor, "that soldier in that box gave you the freedom to make your rules." Murmurs spread through the gate. A man in a business suit added, "Let him go. He's not asking for special treatment. He's asking for respect." Within moments, phones were recording. Someone shouted, "Let the soldier through." Another yelled, "Honor the fallen." The pressure built fast. The supervisor's face went pale. Finally, he sighed and waved to the agent. "Fine, let him through." Daniel nodded once, quietly. "Thank you," he said, then looked around the terminal. "And thank you." He walked slowly down the jet bridge, flag still in his hands, his boots echoing against the metal floor. When he reached the tarmac, the ground crew paused. One by one, they removed their hats. Some saluted. Some placed their hands over their hearts. Daniel approached the casket draped in the same flag he held close for miles. He placed it carefully on top, whispering, "You're home now, brother." And as the sun broke through the clouds, every single engine on the runway went silent. For that brief moment, an entire airport stood still, not for a delay, but for a hero. By the next morning, the video was everywhere. A shaky phone recording from Gate 32 had gone viral, showing Major Daniel Ross standing firm while the airline staff tried to stop him. The caption read, "He wasn't carrying cargo. He was carrying honor." Within hours, millions had seen it. News anchors replayed the clip, veterans posted messages of support, and families of fallen soldiers flooded the airline's page with furious comments. But while America was standing with Daniel, the airline wasn't. At 8 a.m., he got a call from their corporate office. The voice on the other end was cold and rehearsed. "Major Ross, while we understand your emotional situation, your actions yesterday disrupted airport operations and violated federal security procedures." Daniel's hand tightened around the phone. "You're really calling to tell me that?" The rep didn't pause. "We'd like to issue an apology to the public for the misunderstanding, but we ask that you refrain from further statements or media appearances." Daniel couldn't believe it. "You're worried about PR. I was worried about a man who gave his life for this country." There was silence on the line. Then the representative said, "We appreciate your service, but please understand, we're trying to protect our image." Daniel hung up without another word. Later that day, a reporter showed up at his doorstep. "Major Ross, people are demanding the airline apologize. Do you have a comment?" He looked straight into the camera. "This isn't about me. It's about every soldier who comes home under that flag. If an airline can't find time to show respect, maybe it's time the people remind them who gives them the freedom to fly." By that evening, the story had caught fire. Hashtags like #HonorTheFallen and #LetHimEscort trended nationwide. Veterans groups planned peaceful demonstrations at major airports. Then something unexpected happened. A high-ranking Air Force general called Daniel personally. "Son," he said, "you stirred up a storm out here. But you did the right thing." 3 days later, Daniel stood at the Pentagon entrance, his uniform crisp, his eyes steady. The entire situation still felt unreal. A week ago he'd been flying home beside his fallen friend, and now he was being escorted into one of the most secure buildings in the world. A young officer met him at the door. "Major Ross, this way please. The secretary is waiting." They led him through long, echoing halls filled with medals, flags, and portraits of heroes. Daniel kept quiet, wondering why he was really there. When they entered the briefing room, several high-ranking officials were seated around a table. The Secretary of Defense, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a calm authority, rose to greet him. "Major Ross," she said, "you've caused quite a stir." Daniel nodded slightly. "Yes, ma'am, not my intention." "Oh, I know," she said, smiling faintly. "But sometimes the right storm clears the sky." She gestured for him.